let's just begin with your thoughts on smart and sustainable development for the area.
So I have these 5 priorities and values for the Township of Langley. They're the first one, smart and sustainable development. The developing in the township is really important, and where we head to and where we go to is something that we must consider. Langley Township has approximately 105,000 residents that live in the Township of Langley, but it is growing quickly. It's expected that in the next 20 years, we could have as many as 150 or 160,000 people living in the Township of Langley. So how we develop the community, how we grow is important. And sustainable development considers lots of things. It considers the environment. It considers transportation. It considers sociocultural types of growth. It includes things like water management and preservation of parklands. So there is lots of things that are part of sustainable development, but it also does include economic development. And so all of those come together under this concept of sustainability. And Langley Township actually did adopt a sustainability charter, and that was adopted in 2008. And it is a document that, if followed and if carefully managed, speaks very well to this concept of sustainable development. And Langley has a lot of rural space that needs to be preserved and protected. Approximately 75% of the land in the Township of Langley is protected as agricultural land. And so we need to protect those lands, but we also have to have a good plan in place for how we develop the other that manages people well, but also the environment.
Now, your second resolution is safe neighborhoods and communities. What about that?
Yeah, safe neighborhoods. I think everybody wants to have a safe neighborhood. And so, first of all, we think of things like, police service, fire service, and ambulance service, and we think of those types of things, emergency services, to make our community as safe as possible. But I do think that safe neighborhoods goes beyond that, even though those are very critical. It goes beyond that. It includes things like having the good community bylaws and the enforcement of those bylaws, the lighting of our streets and making sure that our streets are lit well, safe and safe parking lots for people. Even things like good services of sewer and water and snow removal and having a hospital that can handle the growth of the community. Those are all part of living in safe neighborhoods. So safety certainly includes police and ambulance and those, but it is much more multifaceted for us.
Now, the third one you have listed is a great place for families. What about that?
Yeah, Langley is a great place for families. It already is great. There are a number of activities for the Langley community to get involved in. There is the annual Canada Day celebrations. There are sports events at the Langley Event Center, which is become a real centerpiece of the Township of Langley. There's a lot of great things there, but I think we could still improve. I think affordable housing is a really important issue in Langley as well as the rest of the Lower Mainland of British Columbia. Housing is very expensive, and so for us to have affordable housing in any community is critical. How do we get affordable housing, and how do we make that a priority for the Township of Langley? I think it's also important that we really look at the development from an economic point of view so that we have more local jobs. We need to have jobs that are available within the local region so that mom and dad can work in Langley and go home and recreate and spend time with their families in Langley, rather than seeing Langley as a commuting city that you have to commute into Vancouver, an hour and a half drive in or an hour and a half drive home. Instead, why not have something close? Why not have our local colleges and universities be very strong in Langley so that young people, when they graduate from high school, can consider staying in Langley and staying close to home and getting the kind of quality education that they need? I think that's the kind of things that we need to continue to develop for Langley.
Now, the fourth one you have listed is outstanding facilities for sports and the arts. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, Langley Event Center is probably the one that most people think of. It opened 5 years ago, and it is really a central place where people are growing in sport. We've attracted all of the basketball competitions for high school all through the entire range from single A all the way up to quad A level basketball. So there are as many as 64 teams in men and in women to compete all in one location. So that center has really attracted a lot of people. It's a wonderful facility, and people that live in the Township of Langley are very much aware of that center. But there are other ones that we need to look at. There's the swimming and recreation facility in Aldergrove that has not yet been developed, but has been talked about for many years. We need to find a way to move ahead and get that done. We need a fine arts center, theater in Langley. We don't have one in Langley, a sort of a specialized fine arts and arts center. We need to have that. And I think even some kind of indoor field house that's available for lots of groups, track and field, baseball, gymnastics, other kinds of indoor groups to be part of that area of Langley. I think Langley can be an area that attracts a lot of people, and sports and the arts are great ways for us to get involved as a community. We feel good about ourselves when we're active and doing things together, participating in the arts, and it also is something that benefits the community through sports tourism and other types of things. So as a way to benefit the economy and the community, as well as an increase a whole sense of community spirit, outstanding facilities for sports and arts is one of the key things for me.
And fifth and lastly, but definitely not least, resolution about being fiscally responsible. How about that?
Yeah, this is one that I think a lot of candidates will speak to and feel that it's important. But obviously, fiscal responsibility is important. We need to manage our budgets. There's limited resources. We have a tax base that is already provided for us, but we have to manage that well. How do we manage the tax base that is given to operate this community, the Township of Langley? We have to use that wisely. I do think that council must set budgets, manage to those budgets. I think we need to strive to keep any kind of tax increases to the level of inflation the best that we can. Township of Langley carries a debt. The debt is currently just over $40 million. And, that's not a huge debt load for a community of our size, but it is a debt. And we should find a strategy to repay that as quickly as possible and make sure that we are moving on a steady growth financially and using the resources the best that we possibly can.
Now, Blair, before we end the podcast, and I know we're here to the end, but did want to give you a chance to see if you had any final thoughts for our listeners.
Well, I would just say that, Langley is a great place to live, and the township is wonderful, but we can get better. And the Langley Township needs to have good, strong leadership. We need to have good community plans as we move forward, and we need to really set that vision of what kind of community do we want for us, but also for our children, our children's children, and all the other people that are going to come and be part of this great place with us. Let's shape a vision, and let's develop something that we can all be really proud of.
Well, Blair, thanks so much for the conversation. Now, for our listeners, you can reach Blair Whitmarsh at www.blairwhitmarsh.com, and you can join the conversation on Facebook at facebook.com/Blair Whitmarsh. I invite you also to visit his website at blairwhitmarsh.com to subscribe to his podcast so you can hear where he stands from his own words. You can listen to the podcast to learn about the issues that are important for a thriving Langley. And of course, don't forget to get out and vote for Blair Whitmarsh on November 15th for the Township of Langley Council. Now, Blair, for myself and the listeners, I'd like to thank you for sharing your journey and your vision for the Township of Langley.
Thanks, Erik. It's great to be here and great to have that conversation with you today.
Thanks for listening. Blair Whitmarsh is a candidate for the Township of Langley Council. You can join the conversation on the issues discussed on Facebook at www.facebook.com/Blair Whitmarsh. And you can find out more about what his campaign for the Township of Langley Council is all about at www.blairwhitmarsh.com.